Hello, I'm Pengjialing. My research topic is interpreting solo for piano in terms of the theory of rationality. This research will let you have more understanding about what is indeterminate music and how indeterminacy be formed. Before we start, I would like to play 10 seconds audio to show how John Cage's solo for piano sounds like. To research this work, I will focus on one element, two research questions, and three analytical framework. Research questions are how Cage uses graphic compositional system to create indeterminacy, and how to understand indeterminacy through the theory of rationality. So, what is indeterminacy? According to Cage, indeterminacy is a feature that leads to substantial differences of each performance. His conclusion is based on his analysis of 5 work. For example, he analyzed the deconstructive fugue structure, method, frequency, duration, and form are determinate. And the rest of the two materials are indeterminate, so performers have the freedom to decide those materials. In other words, indeterminacy requires performers' decision whether before or during the performance. He uses graphic compositional system to pursue indeterminacy. According to Practise, this system consists of two processes. The first one is drawing process, which Cage drew many kinds of drawing like points, lines, shape, and curves, etc. The second one is a means of translation. In translating process, Cage used various approaches to offer meaning to those drawings, such as number, grouping, superimposition, and musical signs. The most importantly, in this system, Cage arranged indeterminate and determinate material to pursue indeterminacy. How can we recognize which material is indeterminate and which material is determinate? The judgment standard is the freedom of decision. For example, performer needs to choose playing direction or a playing note. They may also need to choose which instrument will be used in performances. But when material are determinate, they directly offer instruction to performers, and so the performer will not able to decide anything. Referring back to the first question, how Cage uses graphic compositional system to create indeterminacy? We could notice that indeterminacy is mainly from performers' freedom of interpreting, and so I propose the theory of rationality and a framework of tripartite relationship to delve into this aspect. The theory of rationality is the second analytical framework. Briefly, it explains why individuals take such action in such situation, and it involves individuals' action, interaction, purposes, value, preferences. Cage's solo for piano requires performer's decision, and so rationality can be a feasible theory to combine with tripartite relationship. Rationality includes purposive rational action, which means how people take action to achieve their target, and how they decide action. For example, a merchant who tries to obtain greatest profit. So this person will calculate and decide a business strategy for this particular purpose. It also contains the value rational action, which means the action is based on individual's value concept, such as Buddhism. The believer of Buddhism worship their god to pray for different reasons. Those reasons are closely related to themselves, like students pray for passing final exam, and farmers pray for reasonable weather. Their action is taken by their concept of value. In general, rationality is systematic, intentional, logical, and calculable. The framework of tripartite relationship presents composing and interpreting processes as a serial process, so we could more clearly discover where indeterminacy from. Clarke used Nazi semiotic framework and Molino's terms to build a three-domain framework. Poetic means the process of work's production. Neutral means that a work should be regarded as a material object. Aesthetic is the work's perception or reception. When the framework applied to composer, performer, and listeners, it shows a serial process. A process of a composer composing a musical work is in poetic level. The musical work is in neutral level. Performers understand this work with their aesthetic value. Then they can produce their performances. This process is in a new poetic level. Their performances are in a new neutral level. When listeners appreciate performances, their appreciation builds on their preferences. In the serial process of composing, interpreting, and appreciating, we can notice people's purpose, preferences, and their value, and so we could attempt to connect with value rationality and purposive rationality. For instance, in poetic level, the composer creates musical work by his or her approach, and the musical work is also a practice of the musical imagination. Here involves value and purposive rationality. When performers try to understand the work, they will need to apply their aesthetic. Here contains value rationality. After this, when they produce performance, they not just present their aesthetic, but also take action for presenting their performances. Listener listen to performance is applying their aesthetic, so here involve value rationality. Let's combine three frameworks together and take notation A as example. As mentioned before, we need to design material are indeterminate or determinate based on the graphic compositional system. Then apply the theory of rationality and analyze composing and interpreting process. In this notation, performers need to decide playing amount of right hand and left hand. When right hand plays 16 notes, left hand needs to play 9 notes. Performer also need to decide a note as a start, then play in opposite direction. Catch use point in the drawing process, and applied numbers, musical sign, and grouping to offer meaning. Since the performer need to decide a start and playing notes, points are indeterminate material. Other material are determinate. In composing process, Cage used paper imperfection as material to compose point. This decision is the way how he practiced his philosophical concept. The self-invented graphic compositional system is a specific approach for pursuing indeterminacy. Therefore, in poetic level, we could discover Cage value rationality and purposive rationality. Then, performers need to understand this notation and interpret with their preferences, such as deciding start point and playing note. And so in performers at the ethic level and poetic level, value rationality and purposive rationality can be discovered. Finally, listeners will show their preferences while appreciating performances. Their value rationality can be seen. When performers can decide the start of this notation, also choose the playing note, their decision will substantially influence performances. That is how indeterminacy be formed. Listening, but when comparing two scores together, their difference could be obvious, like the beginning and the end. Here's my references. Thank you.